Hey, I'm Tom, and I take photos. I've actually been waiting to do this for about 2 years now. This weekend, I am about 6.5, 7 hours north of Adelaide. I drove here yesterday. I'm at a place called Mount Ive Station. Mount Ive is like it's a working sheep station in the outback, and they also have a campground. I'm not here for this station, as nice as it is. I am here for what this station is a gateway to. This is the entryway to Lake Gairdner. I've been here twice before. This is my first time seeing it without water. I got here last night. I drove up from Adelaide yesterday, set up my tent and immediately headed out to the lake, and I got some photos, but today is the proper day. But I can tell you a bit more about that later on. Right now, I need to pack my bag. Alright, I've packed my bag. This is my first time using this Atlas pack. They have some goats over there. They've been doing that since early this morning. First time using this pack, even though I've had it for a while. It's not really packed with any rhyme or reason, but we've pretty much got food in here. One tripod on this side, that tripod will go on this side. Got sunscreen, lip balm, battery pack in there. Unzip it. Not packed with heaps of care or attention, but I've got my A7 III with the 16 to 35, 24 to 105. Got some filters and a suction pad, but that's really only for the car. Light, compass, lav mic, Rode wireless go-tos, little tripod, torch, clamp, and then a pair of pants and a jacket, because it will get colder tonight. No pecking. It's time to head out to the lake. From Mount Ive to the lake shore, if you can call it that, is about 40 minutes. But there's some nice scenery on the way and some pretty gnarly roads. You have to embrace the corrugations. Alright, I've made it to the lake, and it's not too windy, just a little bit. Jeez, it is bright. It is so bright and white. Yesterday I got here at golden hour and the sun set about over there, and well, you know, there was gold light. It was very nice, but coming over the hill back there and just seeing this all laid out, it's incredible. It's so white and sparkly. This is a national park, Lake Gairdner National Park, the 4th largest salt lake in Australia. I hope there's no flies out there. And apparently, mostly in this southern end, the salt is up to a metre and a half thick, and you sort of feel that when you're out there. It's super hard. When I was out here the first time, I I wanted to walk out a bit further, hopefully to get some more isolated photos, but it was full of water, so I took my shoes off, and the salt was so hard and so sharp. It was really aggressive on my feet. It's like, it's like walking on really rough gravel. So why am I here? So this is Editing Tom, and I just had to step in here because I said I would tell you what I'm up to, and then I proceeded to ramble for way too long. So essentially my plan for the day was to ride out into the lake approximately 10 kilometers and take photos. So I've been here twice before. The first time was a few years ago and they were a client of mine. I was capturing some of their other attractions around the station. Then I came out to the lake to get sunset and some astrophotography, but on the way out my A7 III broke. Because my only other option was my A6600, I didn't really have the right equipment to get some proper astrophotography, so I really only came away with one image. I was actually really happy with this one though, and it's still one of my favourite images to today. Then I came back a couple months later and the lake was still full, but it was super windy and super choppy, so I really didn't get anything at all that time. And I just made the promise to myself that I would come back. I thought I'd bring a bike when it's at least a little bit drier or a little bit shallower, and I would head out onto the lake and properly get some astrophotography. And so the final reason I actually came out here at this point was because a couple of weeks previous I'd captured Comet A3 in the very early morning, and it had been a couple of weeks, and now you're able to see it just after sunset. So I was hoping to capture the Salt Lake, the Milky Way and the comet all in one photo. But that's enough from me for now, so let's get cycling. Been cycling, I don't know, 15 minutes? Doesn't seem like that long. You can still see the canteen shed where I left off from, and I was heading directly towards those two islands, but then I was seeing a third smaller island. I did know it was there from Google Maps, but I believe that's a little bit closer. It's just a little bit more to the west. So I've detoured. I'm going to that one. Then I'll hook a right and head towards the bigger islands. There it is, just poking up from the mirage. And there's the other two islands. No longer a mirage. I finally made it to the little island. There's the big islands back there. It's only taken me an hour and 40 minutes with the stops for the B-roll. It's okay. Just a bit of salt and mud. I'll wash that off later. Hot. Just had a little walk around. There were some kangaroo bones underneath a rocky shelter over there. There's other kangaroo poop. Obviously something got sick and died in there. a while ago, but there's kangaroo poops all over this place. A lot of them are really dried out. So obviously it's a little stopover when crossing the lake. Judging from Google Maps, should only be 3.5–4 kilometres to the big island. And I've probably gone about 6 and a bit already. That's all right. I mean, I've still got, it's just about 3 now. So golden hour starts in about 3.5 hours. I have plenty of time. I really like this as a place to take photos for sunset because it's such a small piece of land that I can get around to any side that I want, and there's so many unique rock formations. Obviously a big focal point of being out here is the white salt with the really red rocks, and they're just going to get more red as the sun sets. But when you're at that shore, you're dealing with people's footprints in the mud and the salt. I like there's a lot of little areas around here, so any composition I can think of lining up mud and salt and rocks and sun or clouds, I can probably make it work around here. That said, 3.5 hours is a bit long to wait, and my butt's feeling good, so I reckon I'm going to ride maybe at least to the small island, see what that's like. I'm sort of saving the big island for a Milky Way pano. I reckon it'll be a really nice perspective to be on top of that island, looking down on the Salt Lake and these other 2 islands in the distance with the Milky Way over. I think it'll provide a really good sense of scale of the place. But I actually have to get over there, and if I go now, I'll have to probably come back here for sunset. So it's a bit of a gamble. I think I'm going to put on some more sunblock though, and then I'll get going. Made it to the small island. Didn't take that long at all, like 20 minutes. It was fine. And over here's the big island. So I think I've figured out my plan. These islands are a lot more like dirty, like it's not, dirty's not the right word, but they look more like dirt and shrubs than just a collection of rocks. Obviously they do have the rocks along the shoreline, but on top, very round, very smooth. So what I reckon I'll do for a bit, have a chill in the shade of a nice rock, preferably one without any kangaroo bones. Then the sunset, I'll go back to that first little island, get nice photos contrasting the salt and the rocks and the sky, and there was a lot of interesting looking rocks there. Then once the sun is set, hop on the bike, head to the big island. I'll get up there, no issues, and then this is still west, so this island right here is really going to be quite prominent in the Milky Way pano. I think that'll look really cool, and I'll do that, and I'll ride back home, and I don't know, get some dessert, have a shower, go to bed. Good time. You know what, while I'm here, alright, I thought this bit was cool. I made it as far north as I wanted to on this trip. Going any further would be like masochism. Obviously, I think like 10 k's away from where I started is huge, and there's absolutely nothing around me except for salt and rocks. But then you look this way, and where the mirage just obscures the horizon, that's at least 50 kilometers to the other side of the salt lake. And that's not even through the main part of the salt lake. That's just sort of diagonally, and then it bends and it goes north for what must be another 200, 300 kilometers. Like, this thing is huge. And another thing, there are so many tiny dead bugs just sort of like becoming one with the surface of the lake. Like, a kilometre out here for me is like 100 kilometres for a butterfly. I saw a beautiful black and yellow butterfly just flapping about. I don't know where it's going. I don't think it's going to get there. I don't live that long. I'm not going to go for a rest just yet. I see a little rock can on the top of this medium island. Gonna go check it out. Little bone. There's the can. There's another one. There's a little island. This lens is still pretty wide. I think it's like right now 27mm equivalent. You can see how getting up high really changes the landscapes around the lake. Oh, it's nice up here. I like these little tufty bushes. And just back there, saw a kangaroo bouncing across. So I've just had a rest for 2 hours. I almost even fell asleep. Just on the rocks where my bag is there. Except the flies kept waking me up. They were too loud. It'd go really quiet and I'd start to drift off to sleep. Then one would come zooming past my head. I didn't sit here the whole time. I did have a snack, and then I got up and I walked around the island. But now I have a plan in place, and it is time to start taking photos. Because if we're calling golden hour the hour before sunset, we're just about to hit it. So it's time to go take some photos. Just like that, sunset is gone. We're into blue hour. Oh, I felt like I was running around a bit mad, trying to get everything. I was just trying to look for nice compositions and the textures of the salt and the rocks, you know, interesting shapes. There were some cool eroded ones over there, like it's a little cave underneath each one. I think that's where some of the kangaroos or whatever hang out when it's hot. But yeah, a lot of interesting shapes, and I like sort of how the salt builds up and clings around the rocks. So they all felt like very strict landscape images as opposed to like more travel, outdoor adventure photography. I don't really feel like being in it too much. I just, I'm happy to get the photos of the red rocks and the salt, because I feel like when I've been here previously, those are photos that I've specifically struggled with. There's a couple clouds up though, nice wispy ones, so I might see if I can find a composition to hopefully include those. I'll do that, and then I will head to the big island. I also think I'm carrying around most of the lake's flies with me, but I don't know. They might leave when it gets a bit darker. So I just made it to the big island from the tiny island. It's starting to get a bit darker now. So it's not that far, probably only 200 meters. The biggest issue is going to be making sure I can find the bike down the bottom here in the dark when I'm done. At least I'll be able to have a bit of a sit up there for a while again. It's taken it out of me, all this work. So there's the medium island, just there. And the Milky Way is going to start in the south about here, arch all the way up and over, and land in the north. Which means that island's going to be smack bang right in the middle. We can already see Venus showing up. And while I wait for the Milky Way, that comet is about here. I think I can just start making out its shape with my eye now. Thankfully I got some photos that I'm really happy with, but of course what I'm most happy about from this trip is this Milky Way panorama. There's a lot to take in with this photo, but essentially we've got the Milky Way over the Salt Lake, we've got the medium island in the foreground, and if you zoom in you can see the small island where I spent sunset. We've got other things like Venus in the zodiacal light, and what surprised me most about this, which I didn't see while I was out taking the photos or while reviewing the photos, it wasn't until I sat down at the computer and uploaded these to Lightroom that I noticed that I actually captured the southern lights, the aurora australis. And then just below the aurora you can see this small light, and that's from Gairdner photography. So he's another South Australian, an awesome astrophotographer. He was out there at 9:30, he told me later, shining his head torch in the direction that he thought I might be, because he said truthfully he was worried that I had gotten lost, because he was expecting me to be back. And I did actually see the light shining at me from up on the island. I assumed it was him, though I didn't shine my light back. I wasn't sure if he was trying to communicate. Anyway, back to a very, very tired and exhausted Tom. So, got a pano, and just as I was getting that, the full moon started to rise, and that was 10 o'clock. Now I've made it back to the car. No lights or anything, just the Milky Way and the moon. Made it back. It's just after 11. Oh, I'm so exhausted. I think I'll sleep well tonight. And as I was riding, about halfway down, suddenly, for a split second, the sky lit up all around. I looked back over my shoulder and saw a meteorite, and it streaked. It was like it streaked up above, and then it went out briefly and then started streaking again. And it was so bright, it was so long. And then even the smoke it left in the atmosphere, like you could see the smoke with your naked eye, and it just started to sort of blow away slowly, but it was up there. That was cool. Never seen something like that before. I'm just laying where I got to put the bike in a second. Just taking a second to compose myself. Anyway, I thought this video was a bit all over the place. I hope you like the photos at least. The video, you know, done's better than perfect, but I hope the photos are good. See you in the next one, whatever that might be.